Welcome to Mick and the Psychic, where we leave no stone unturned as we explore all things outside the apparent physical realm.
There is no intent to teach or make you believe or disbelieve anything. It is just a safe space to listen and explore with us.
So for this next episode, you have permission to open your heart and mind as you join myself and Xavier on this deep dive into the unknown.
You want to think of it as this energetic database that exists at the fifth dimension that holds all the information about the universe, past, present, and future. Every soul has its own Akashic record.
I'm looking forward to this. So this episode we'll be talking about Akashic records. So I'm generally not normally excited about paperwork and records, particularly around tax time. But I do think that this topic's going to be fun. To help shed light on the topic, though, we have Patty Oliver on the show. Patty teaches people about their energy field and how they can change their entire life by learning to clear energy blocks and take their power back. It's amazing. We've heard this kind of story a lot with healers and very much a theme. Wonderful. Patty's also blessed with the gift of divine communication. Well, not talking about Zoom, but divine communication and intuitive energy healing. And for the past 12 years, she says she's had the honor of helping hundreds of people around the world change their lives for the better. She's mentored and trained in, of course, Akashic records, past lives, karma, soul gifts. Love it. Holy fire, Karuna Reiki. Wow, did I say that right?
That's like a mouthful, isn't it? Yeah.
It sounds like I just read that straight out of a Tolkien book. But
I know.
And so, which is source energy for healing and channeling as well. So looking at the higher self, I'd like to talk about the higher self in hypnotherapy as well. So it's interesting. So higher self, spirit guide team, in order to gain objective soul level information, all that wonderful stuff. Absolutely love it. Patty, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. It's exciting to be here, and you know, it's interesting that we made this happen. You know, I'm here in Oregon on the other side of the world, and it's like 4 p.m. Thursday, and I think it's what 9 a.m. Friday there.
Yeah, we're in the
something
we're in the future. We're in the future.
Yeah, we can tell you.
But we're not going to tell you the lottery numbers over there in Ontario because you know that wouldn't be fair. And all Australians sign a contract to say that we can't do that. But we're officially your tomorrow.
I was hoping.
No.
Oh well. That's okay. So yeah, I'm excited to be here. Always excited to talk about my modality of choice, which is the Akashic records.
Oh, good. We picked the right one.
Yeah. So maybe we should start by, me telling you what the Akashic records are.
Yeah, if you could. That'd be great.
A lot of people. Go ahead.
So it's come up a lot. We had a special request from one of our listeners that wanted to learn records, and I've always wondered myself because I tune in and I connect with past lives and I help heal them and clear them. And I always wondered, am I just speaking to? Well, we might not even really know the definite answer, but am I speaking to their higher self or mine or all one, or am I tapping into the Akashic records?
Right.
How do I present to people so many questions. So. Explain away.
And probably all of the above.
Yeah, probably.
So the Akashic records you can think of them as like an energetic database, right? And the word Akashic comes from the Sanskrit word Akasha, which is loosely translated to mean, sky, universal, all kinds of different translations. But basically, you want to think of it as this energetic database that exists at the fifth dimension that holds all the information about the universe, past, present, and future. So every soul has its own Akashic record. And so if you ever wanted to know anything about who you are at soul level, you tap into the Akashic record because it holds all the information about how your soul was designed from source. So you can access it, and I can tell you all about, your gifts, your strengths, your attributes, all of the things that your soul was blessed with for you to use to create your abundance while you're here in your earthly incarnation, right? And so the first thing that you want to know is that, yes, you are meant to have a happy, joyful, abundant life. Some people don't even believe that, but you are. But we're also blessed with free will, right? So you have to choose it, and you're helped along the way. You're given these blessings and gifts for you to choose to use any way you want. There's no wrong way to progress throughout your life and create as you go using your gifts. But some people choose to use their gifts, some don't. Some could even use their gifts against themselves. You know, that's kind of an interesting concept. How could I be using that against myself? Well, I could tell you about that. And you, like I said, you have this free will to use it or not. You can feel very empowered, like the world is your oyster and I'm just going to hit one challenge after the other and go for it. Or you could look at your incarnation in very much a victim mode, right? The world's against me. Nobody lets me get ahead. Therefore, I can't, and maybe I just won't. And both choices are valid. But one is just a heck of a lot more fun than the other, right? Once you overcome certain things. So so that's the first thing that I can share is, you know, this is who you are at soul level. These are your gifts. And most people, I think, innately know what they're good at or what sounds good to them or what they feel they're good at. Other people don't look at necessarily their gifts as a gift. They don't think of it as, oh, this is something I'm blessed with and I can use it any way I want. So that's a good first part of the Akashic Records. Then the other thing that the Akashic Record will hold for you is all of your life lessons that your higher self arranged for your soul to have while you're incarnated. Right here on the earth plane. And so there's very much a purpose why you're here. Nothing is random. Nothing happens for no reason. It is very well thought out. So you come in with this little agenda, right? And you're off on your merry way. And yes, you can pick and choose what you want, but you're going to have certain experiences driven initially by the experiences you want. And then you're going to be put into a family that is vibrationally aligned to you learning what it is that you came here to want to learn. Yep. Okay, so yes, your family's very much chosen for you. And again, no randomness. So we talk about that whenever I do a session. And then the other thing that's really important that's in your Akashic record is all the choices that you have made from your moment of incarnation from source. So you can make basically one of two choices, either a choice that serves you or one that doesn't. And so the positive choices, you know, are all good. We just keep going with those. But what we would consider negative choices are those things that if we don't balance them out in the lifetime that we created it, then it creates something called karma, negative karma. There's positive and negative. We're talking about the negative karma. And so this is often the identifiers or the blocks that we say are in your way from you getting where it is you want to go from point A to point B. So I share that with you, and then we work about clearing it. So that's kind of what's held in the Akashic record, which is an awful lot. And then that brings us to the subject of karma. But did you guys have anything you wanted to throw in there?
I got about 1,000 things. Yeah, absolutely. I think because so I guess accessing or viewing somehow the Akashic records. I mean, as you kind of indicated, the Akash isn't bound by time.
Yeah,
correct.
So, but then there's free will. So if there was free will and the Akash is not bound by time and you're going to the Akashic records for information, then that would mean that the Akashic records must be dynamic. They
Yes,
must be
everything
changing all
exists
the
all at
time.
once. Well, yeah, it is, and there's no linear time
Mhm.
in the Akashic record. So here in the Earth plane, we tend to think of things happening one after the other in linear time, and in the Akashic records, there is no illusion of time. So all choices are available to you all at one time.
Mhm.
So we can go back and identify where something started, which could have been 20 lifetimes ago, 100 lifetimes ago. Could have started as a new pattern in this lifetime, but whatever it is, it's there. I can reach in and pluck it. And since the Akashic records is so vast, you have to be very specific with what you ask about what you're looking for. Otherwise, you're just going to get deluged with a bunch of stuff that it's like, I don't know how to even, where do I begin? So it's very important to know what it is that I want to address. And I go in and say, I want to know exactly what the original cause was of this particular pattern.
Yep.
That's all I want to know.
Yep. Okay.
And boom, I can pluck it out. And then, essentially, a soul will come to the Earth plane to experience linear time, to experience the physical realm, because there's really no dimension like the third dimension. This is an awesome school to come to, right? There's a lot of willful negativity that takes place here. And because you have free will, you come here as a soul to create. So we are all creators of our experience. It's up to us, however we want to go. You're given a little bit of an agenda to start with, and then you run with it. But you experience yourself and choose, hopefully, for your highest good in light of all the things that people want to do to you, to control you, to manipulate you, whatever. There's a lot of that goes on, and it's a tough navigation, right? So having the information about who you are and where you've been, I think is so critical to where you want to go, because it really identifies what you need to work on so that you can get where you want to go. And I always say that the Akashic records, in my estimation, since it's my tool of choice, is really the missing key to your manifesting. Because if you're trying to manifest a new result, we'll talk about that in a minute, you must clear your karma first, and you will keep hitting against your karma until you change it. So until you get above it, you can't get to where you want to go. You might get some semblance of what you're looking for, but you won't really receive the full benefit of it, or I believe the full success of it, until you've overcome your karma. And so what is karma?
We love interviewing experts from different fields about all things outside the apparent physical realm.
And the one constant is that these phenomena are transmitted through energy.
So we sought out and teamed up with Subtle Energy Science
to bring to you, our listeners,
energetically encoded technology you can use on your phone, laptop, computer, or tablet,
turning your device into a powerful personal quantum energy tool.
We're not the creators, nor are we qualified enough to explain it, but there is a mind-blowing number of scientific studies available on their website.
We get to try the range ourselves so we can give an honest review.
And from September to the start of December, we've got 20% off digital cannabis with promo code MATP-861.
Now, this is not physical cannabis. It's the digital transmitted quantum energy source of cannabis. So you get the stress relief, the anti-inflammatory benefits, even mild euphoria without the negative effects or addiction.
Although from experience, opening multiple files can result in lots of giggles and not getting much done.
Well,
Right?
I guess so. Just to bring it back.
Go
a bit, so
go for it.
Questions before we get into karma.
with the karma, because I mean we can't avoid creating karma. Well, we can avoid creating
Correct.
karma. We can absolutely avoid creating karma. We can just die.
It's hard.
We can
I
die.
mean, unless if you're a monk living in a cave, you might be
Still karma. Still karma. If you stop breathing.
I was a monk living in a cave, basically. My last, well, it's not in time, but yeah, a recent life, if you put it in linear time, and I still came back.
Yeah. But I think
I was kind of half joking,
no,
but you're
of
right.
course, that's right. Karma, you're not creating karma, you're probably dead. But so the use of the Akashic records for you is to help specifically identify where someone has a block, like some kind of pattern block or something in their life where they're blocking their true potential, like options to do their true potential. So accessing that Akashic record for that specific thing that obviously your clients will come to you for. So you'll go, okay, great, I can make that specific and go straight to the Akashic record for that.
Yes.
Before we go on to karma and everything, you can't just brush over this. Oh,
no,
I'm gonna dig deeper.
These are all
than
deep
that.
subjects.
Yeah, no. You can't just like move on to karma and then move on to, I don't know, the meaning of life. No. So back, like if I can't just go to my local library, walk in and grab a book and walk out. There's a librarian there. There's library cards. There's procedures.
Yep.
If I were to go to like to get some kind of classified information from the government, there's even more checks and balances and things, even if I were allowed to go and look at it. And that would be also, should I be looking at that stuff? Because do I even know what I'm doing in there? Do I even know what I'm looking at? Could I do something?
Yeah.
How and who gives you access to be able to look at the Akashic records? Is there like
I think that's a great question.
Yeah.
Because it is your Akashic record is your private information, right? And it should be treated as such. And as a matter of fact, it's very protective of you. So in other words, no one can enter your Akashic record without your express permission, because otherwise it will just send you a bunch of nothingness and misinformation, because it's like, you're out of here. You didn't get permission to be in here.
Okay.
And so if a healer or someone comes along and says, oh, well, I can just read that person's Akashic record, it's no big deal. That's not true. Then they're not reading the Akashic record. They're not getting proper information, because it's highly, highly personal to you. So you need to give me permission to enter your Akashic record. And then I make contact with your spirit guides, who kind of interpret the record for me and will allow what information they want to allow through at that time.
Is that another level of permission again? Like when you speak to the spirit guides or the higher self?
I think
like,
so.
Have you ever gone and the spirit guides or the higher self has just said, oh, that's actually not accessible?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, so here's the thing, and it happens very, very rarely, but sometimes, now here's the other interesting thing, is that it's a soul permission to be cleared, not the human permission. So if Michael, say you come to me, say, I want you to do my Akashic record, and I get the approval, I'm like, cool. So I do my thing, and it's a very reverent thing, and I enter, and then I could be said, you know what, his record is not available for clearing at this time. And that's something that I have to honor, because that soul might not want its karma cleared because it's helping someone else. Okay, so for maybe you to stay in a negative state will help someone else that you're with. Maybe it's going to interrupt a lesson that you're experiencing, and check back in a year. I mean, I've had that happen. And it's like, okay, all right, well, this is just what we're going to do. The other time where I might be told no is that sometimes the soul might be throwing up a red flag. It's not necessarily a no access, we're done, clear. It's, nah, I don't know if I want you to know the whole story. So I think I'm going to throw up some red flags. And sometimes through your personal choice, because you are potentially very disconnected to your higher self and your soul level communication, and you've kind of so removed yourself from why you're here, that there's this disconnect and you're just doing all of these things that are out of alignment to your highest good, that there's just all this messiness and fogginess that I have to try to get through first. So I can get permission to do some clearing work first. And then they'll say, okay, come on in.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. And that kind of leads to what I was going to ask you. You've answered some of it for me, because I thought, I see, and I've been had it explained to me, that Earth is like university for us.
Yeah.
University, because we forget why we came here. We don't know our lessons. So I'm like, so if they come to you for an Akashic record, look in there, what is my purpose and what am I supposed to be doing? We're trying to maybe skip ahead. We're getting told things that we were supposed to kind of figure out. So that makes sense, that you're not just opening the floodgates to everything, because they're going to give you what they're allowed to know, which is great. So that's what I was wondering. I thought, are you messing with some of your lessons and skipping ahead? When I help clear past lives, I've kind of wondered that before. I'm clearing the soul contracts with theta healing and other modalities. But I figured then that part of their lessons is to also come and find someone like me, to find someone like you, to get that cleared in the first place as well. So that is part of their story. Otherwise, it wouldn't be.
Could be.
So
yeah,
you're allowed to have access to certain things to help clear
the
next stage.
And that's very true, because now the other thing is that, I only work on one thing at a time.
Yeah.
I mean, it's impossible to clear everybody's karma at one time. You would implode. It's too hard, because in order to make the necessary changes to get you on your highest potential path, or wherever it is you want to go, it requires, I say it requires lifestyle changes, essentially. You need to change all of the bad habits. You need to take your power back. Taking your power back can take quite a long time, and lots of reworking in your relationships and in your career and in your family. I mean, this is not a one and you're done type of thing. And it's definitely, you're definitely committed. I mean, I put on my website, I said, if you want a private session, this is not for the faint of heart. This is not a fun, hey, great reading and off you go. This is like deep stuff. And if you want to change, you need to bring it into your experience and make it part of your life, so that you can move on to your the potential, what you say you want. And that means unwinding all of your karma, or at least the big karmic patterns for that lifetime. And one is enough at a time. So that's the first thing. But the other thing that you commented on, Xavier, that I'd like to respond to, is that a lot of people don't know what their lessons are, is what you said.
Yeah.
And deep down, most people know their karma. Most people know what their issues are. They just don't want to go there. And maybe they just haven't thought of it from a spiritual standpoint, which is the karma ends up being all these repeating patterns that you're doing over and over. Yeah.
To that. Yeah.
Totally. And it's like, what the heck? So it's like, why do I never have any money?
Yes.
Why do I keep dating the same abusive guy over and over and over?
Yeah, the most true.
Why?
For like my clients too.
I keep giving in to my family. What's going on? I'm ill health. Poor health always has its roots in energy, which you can find in the Akashic record. So they're just not thinking of it that way. And if they do know, they don't want to take the necessary steps, and most people know what they need to do. So and it's not to belittle them. It's, we're not used to thinking that way. And we're also used to looking at the universe as, well, it's happening to me.
Yes.
I'm the victim here. It's like, oh, no. You are the creator of your experience. You are choosing it. And oh boy, some people don't want to hear that. But it's true. Yes. Yeah. And there's a phrase that says, well, you might not necessarily be responsible for the trauma you endured.
Yes.
Okay. But you are responsible for healing from it and stop choosing it. And well, I'm not keep choosing it. And it's like, well, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Where are you giving into your power? Where do you keep giving in? Where do you keep kowtowing? Where do you keep, and, oh, okay. So you get them to think about themselves. And when you change, the universe changes around you. And it's just amazing to watch because it does happen. And when you do the Akashic work, or in your case, your healing work, sometimes you can speed that up for them and they see it, they witness their own shift.
Mm-hmm.
And it's cool.
Yes, very cool.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
So then, so then we go back to the karma, which is kind of like explained. Well, what is karma? It's simply the energy of a choice you made that you get an equal response back from the universe, positive or negative. That's really all it is. So it's this system that we learn from, that we use to navigate our human experience between our gifts and our life lessons, the things that we want to do, which is usually based on karma, and then the karma itself. All those serves as drivers for things to happen into your life over and over and over and over again until you overcome your major karmic patterns. And Michael, you had asked, well, how do I know if I can, go here? Do I even have any business going here? Well, the Akashic record nowadays should be something that is very accessible, and it is. It's not a big mysterious thing that's out there that's untouchable. I think one of the things that has come with our raising of our vibration, we hear that concept a lot, raise your vibe, the new earth, going to the new earth, all of that stuff, it is real. We all as humans have risen in vibration, right? We generally tolerate much less than we used to. Hundreds or thousands of years ago, it was very brutal, very power over, just all this powerlessness and what I call primal fear was very much instilled in people. And we just haven't overcome our karma fast enough, according to my guides. They're like, we just got to, move this thing along, people. So because we've risen in vibration, we're able to say to the universe, through our intentions, basically, I don't want this karma anymore. So it's not like they're just going to take it away because you say so. That wouldn't be the human experience, right? So
right, yeah.
you can set the intention, and that's basically what we do. So I will, go in, I'll identify this is what we're going to do, and then I give you basically a set of mantras to say out loud. It's just more powerful when you speak it out and say, I intend to release this contract or this vow or whatever it is. And the universe is like, oh, good, finally. So we're going to put a little check mark in your record, and it's kind of a placeholder, all right? And so the universe says, okay, we got to put this in motion, guys, because Michael says he wants to get rid of this, whatever it is. So good. So now we're going to give him an opportunity to do that. So I will do the clearing.
Careful what you ask for, right?
Yeah, you're going to have
right.
to the problem.
Right. You're gonna get it. So so the clearing that I do kind of helps relieve some of the mental conflict, some of the emotional triggers that you have around it, to make it easier. So then when the universe gives you this person that you've had difficulty with all your life, because it's gonna happen, now you know consciously why it's happening. You're like, oh, Patty said this was gonna happen. Here it comes. So then it's like, what choice am I gonna make? And you're like, okay, I know this is what I used to do. I know this is what I used to do. Can't do that. I've got to do this, X, whatever it is we've talked about. And it doesn't mean that, you will be a little nervous doing it, that it's like, oh my God, but you do it. And then once you do it, oh, it's like downhill from there. It's like, first of all, it wasn't as hard as I thought, although sometimes it can be, the other person might respond badly. that you don't have any control over them.
Have free will.
Of course.
You have free will. And,
Yeah.
you know, if you are kowtowing to someone all the time or constantly trying to do what they want, people please, they don't like it when you stop doing that. So then you have to understand, it's like, well, for me to take my power back, it's okay. If that person wants to respond badly, that's their choice, not mine. I'm okay with that. I'm going to stand in my truth and I'm going to do this. Very, very hard to do. Very hard. And I think that that this is why people don't change, because they don't want that. It's like, but I might lose the relationship. Well, yeah, you might. You might not.
Yeah.
You know, you might have to leave your soul sucking job that you have and start this job. You might have to end your marriage. You might have, I mean, you don't know. And a lot of people don't want to take that perceived risk, and they don't know what they're going to get. And it's very, very scary.
Yeah.
So a lot of people don't. And that's where the energy healing can come in too. It's like, if you can keep your chakras and auras aligned, and because as you shift, that moves all the time. Your aura and energy is always changing. You keep it aligned, you keep it balanced through certain things, and it helps you as you're going through that shift.
That makes sense.
Right.
When I have clients, I'll say I could give you all this advice, give you mantras, give you things to do, but unless you've had your chakras balanced, it's going to be a shitload harder than if you just try it on its own. Like you'll be in flow that, and it will be easier. So that makes that. So
and you know, it gives you an ability to keep people accountable, because if you know, you work with them and then they come back and say, well, nothing's happening. I'm like, well, what did you do this and this?
Yeah.
Well, no. I'm like, well, okay, you know, so changing is very scary. And it sometimes, that's why I go back to this, it requires a lot of what I call lifestyle changes. You have to purge yourself of all the negative, and that takes a while. Replace it with positive coping mechanisms. And for a while, you might feel very alone. You might feel very vulnerable while the universe is readjusting itself around you. And that's the other thing about, you know, the third dimension is, you know, creation is kind of a messy art here. You know, you don't go from just point A to point B. No, you know, it's always a process of, if you want to construct something, you have to deconstruct where you're at. This has to fall apart and fall away before you can create this. It has to be that way, because we live in polarity, right? And whatever needs to be created, this has to come apart. So you feel that, you feel like you're falling apart, like, oh my God, the rug is coming out from under me. Everybody's leaving. I just lost my job. Oh my God, you know, and it feels very wrong, even though by universal law, it has to work that way. Law of attraction. If you're no longer aligned to that negative pattern, it has to leave, and everything associated with it. So having this knowledge, I think, helps people make sense of what's going on. It gives them a whole other set of tools to manage their life. And they definitely have to be ready for that. Certain people, they may just not be ready for that. But as they move along in their life, okay, you know what, I think I'm ready to do this. Let's bring it on. So so yeah, so that is Akashic records and karma in a nutshell. And karma doesn't, you know, leave just because you pass away, right? So if you don't balance it out in the lifetime you created it, the law of karma says you need to go back to the dimension in which you created it and do it again.
Yeah. Just a really good way to stop creating karma is die. That's all. You just stop creating it. That's all.
Don't balance it out. Like, yeah.
That's all. You stop creating it.
Well, we don't want it. Well, because, you know, the thing about, you know, the Earth School, you can have anything you want. And so if you just learn to recognize your negative patterns and stop doing them, you can go anywhere you want. You can have anything you want, but you've got to get out of your own way and go there. And the higher you raise in vibration and the more you strive, the narrower that path becomes of what's going to serve me and what's not. There's a million ways to fall off the wagon, right? And there's only a few ways to stay on it. So the best way to stop creating karma is to become a conscious creator. And this is part of what I have on my website. When you go there, it says manifest the life of your dreams through conscious creation and energy healing. And there's a lot in that statement purposefully. So we're talking about all these different things. So conscious creation is being very conscious of the choices you're making to take yourself in a very purposeful direction. So many people are living in their subconscious and their unconscious. You guys probably deal with that a lot. Right?
I constantly deal in my subconscious. There's plenty of
we all
things
do.
that I do. Yeah, that's right.
We all do.
Thank goodness. It's amazing. If I
Yeah.
just relied on the conscious part of my brain, wow.
But you want to because the subconscious is where all that dark stuff is that we don't want to talk about, that we don't want to deal with. It's those triggers that we just knee-jerk reactions. It's the emotional responses. We're emotional creatures. The emotional body gets us in trouble a lot. My spirit guides tell me that this is the emotions. So it's like they're wonderful, on the joyful elation side of things, but on the negative, it's like, if you want to know that it's an illusion and you can change it at any time. So your subconscious is usually, we're just kind of on autopilot, and you didn't come here to live on autopilot. You came here to be very much the pilot and the director of where you want to go. And the more you study your subconscious reactions and put some separation, rather than that knee-jerk reaction, it's like, wait, count to 10. What is this telling me, and where did it start?
Yeah.
Hmm?
It's mindfulness.
Yeah.
Just stopping.
Yes, being mindful, bringing some mindfulness to it and saying, I no longer want to do this. I need to make another choice. And then you break that, and then you become very conscious. So that's where the intention setting comes, in 6 months or 12 months or 3 years, whatever it is, I intend to go here and be whatever it is. I want to be abundant. I want to feel fulfilled. I want, whatever it is, you become that.
Can I just ask
yeah.
them?
Yeah.
Maybe the question on, I guess, who wants that? So, I guess there's the case of, I can't have anything I want in the world. If I wanted to be the fastest sprinter on the planet, I can't because of my physique. Because I'm not Usain Bolt.
Line, yeah.
So I guess it's about looking at, like, is it whatever you want as the person living this life, or are we talking about whatever you want as in the one that has come here for this earthly experience?
Yeah,
well, I think it's either or. But you know what? How do you know because of your physique? That's an excuse, Michael. How do you know because of your physique that you can't do it?
It's a scientific fact.
These are blinders. You don't know.
This is science. I'm 5'11". I'm 5'11".
Well,
I could train my ass off, and I'm not going to be as fast as the fastest female 100-meter sprinter.
Well, that's why usually, you have to identify why you want to be the fastest sprinter in the world.
That's right. Yep.
So that's a better question to ask. It's like,
but
why do I want to do that? Well, what are you looking for?
What do you really want?
Looking for I'm looking to be really, really good at something and I want the accolades. Okay, and then let's decipher that. Well, why do you need the accolades? You
Yeah.
don't. Okay, so we get that out of the way. And it's
So-
like, okay, so what is it that you want? What's the energy of what you want? Do you want to feel peace? Do you want to feel joy? Do you want to feel power? You know, you go to the energy of what it is that you're looking for and become that. One possible way might be a sprinter. You don't know until you try. And then if you're like, okay, you know what, that's never going to happen. Then what the better thing to do really is to look at your gifts, right? It's like, well, what is my gift? Is my gift the physical, which would be maybe a runner, or is my gift, you know, more esoteric, or am I communication, or what do I like to do? But what do people? What is your go-to? Do people always come to you for advice? See, that's why sometimes it's like, well, people don't even recognize that their gift is their gift. It's like, well, I don't know. I just tell people what to do, and somehow it always works out. Oh, well, guess what? We just hit on a gift, right? And you can do it any way you want. So it's not necessarily, we often equate what we do with who we are, and that's sometimes a mistake that we make, because then we feel failure if we don't reach it. It's like, look, see, I can't be the best runner in the world. I told you. Oh, well, but what was it you were looking for? Yeah, what do you want?
Exactly.
And then how do I get there? And actually, what's interesting is I can actually share it, if you want, how I got into energy healing, because it kind of answers that question a little bit.
Yeah, sure. Go. Yeah,
I'm my own example. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I did not set out to be an energy healer. I did not, and moreover, something called Reiki and Akashic records. And matter of fact, when I first started in those, I didn't know what either one of them were. So I had set an intention like 15 years ago. I wanted to be, it was important to me to be financially independent for a number of personal reasons. I need to be financially independent. And I had just come out of breast cancer. Okay, so breast cancer survivor. And I'm like, as soon as I'm done with chemo, as soon as I'm done with these surgeries, I know I need to make myself happy, because I was the classic people pleaser. Okay, how can I please you? What can I do for you? And then I would get resentful about it. I'm like, what the, I got to stop that. And it was this vicious cycle, right? And I'm like, the only one that's going to make me happy is me, and I need to do that. And for me, I feel the best way I can do that is to become financially independent because of what I was, where I was. And I'm like, I'm open to it, but my modality of choice at the time was that I wanted to become a skincare specialist. You know, I was investigating, look, what do I want to do? And that just fit, you know, I'm like, it's one-on-one, it's quiet, it's healing. That's what I want to do. So I put myself through school. I had a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old at the time.
Oh, wow.
And I was a mom all day. I put dinner on the table. I went to night school, got home at 11 o'clock, and I did it all over again. And I did it for a year. I set the intention, and I took action to get there. I'm like, I am going to do that. And if it doesn't, if nothing else lines up with that, don't do it. Right? So I didn't do it. So I opened my business, and a couple months later, I got this random invitation to go to a networking event, right? And it was just a few days before Christmas. It was miserable outside, and I'm like, I have all these reasons to not go.
Yeah.
But how weird! This just showed up, and you know, that's the universe going, hello. We're going to put you on your next path. So here you go. And I'm like, okay, all right, I'll go. So the last person I met with at this meeting was a Reiki master.
Okay.
And I'm like, what's Reiki? Are you gonna like massage me or what? And he's like, great energy, right? And he's like, oh no, I'm gonna put my hands on you and heal you. And me being the very non-woo person that I am, I said, what?
Excuse me.
That's the silliest thing I ever heard. I mean, I was just like, you've got to be kidding me. So, but he's like, oh no, get on the table, and you know, where would you like me to work on you? And I had some residual pain from the cancer surgery, so I'm like, oh, I'll focus on that. And I'm like, oh, you know, God, this is almost over. I mean, I really thought it was silly, but I got off the table, and I was very disoriented, which I was not expecting. Felt like I had been asleep for 2 hours. And the next day I woke up, the pain was gone, has never come back, and I was more vitalized than I had been in years. And I'm like, oh my God, I have to do this. And so, long story short, I got into Reiki and worked my way up all those things. And as I was incorporating Reiki into the skincare, because I had people on the massage table, like, throw some energy in there, you know. The profound results that people were getting, I couldn't explain, but they were like, oh my God. And then one gal started talking about what was going on in her life. And I'm like, I saw that in my third eye. I saw that. I thought I was kind of randomly not focusing. And I'm like, I see that. I'm going to play with this. So I would start talking to people while I'm on the table, saying, I'm getting this, I'm getting that. And they're like, yes, yes, yes. Like, holy shit. I'm on the subject. So then people started coming to me more for that than the skincare. And I had to make a decision. So then I'm like, I guess I got to sell this business, which sold like that. That's a whole story into itself. And I'm like, okay, I guess I'm an energy healer. And then it ended up that the intuition was that people's issues started in a past life.
Gotcha.
And I'm like, okay, this is new.
And how did you see that, or did they come and say that they had issues?
No, I saw that.
Okay,
I saw that.
Yeah.
I just knew, you know, it's the clairaudience, the claircognizance, it's just things would just everyone gets their hit differently, right? And I learned early on to go with what I got.
Okay.
So I got to study this. So I start reading books like Dolores Cannon. You guys talk about her, Michael Newton, Brian Weiss, you know, all these people. And I kept coming up on the term Akashic record. And I'm like, I got to do this. I don't know what it is, but I got to do it. And so it launched me into a whole career I never even knew existed. And I'm more financially independent than I could ever ask for.
Because it's an easier path because you're going towards where your passion is. So to spend time.
Well, kind of, but I was being led.
Yeah.
Well, I was being led by the nose. I'm like, what is this? And I was kind of reluctant. But, you know, it's like, come on, you know, we're trying to fulfill what you asked. Let's go, Patty.
Really
Let's do it.
Listening to that. So now you can help with theirs. Yeah, that's really cool.
Well, you know how I found you, Xavier, is, you know, you said that you saw my post.
Yes.
Well, you know what happened on Facebook? I had posted that on my business page a couple days prior and didn't think of it again. And I was sitting down watching TV, not even remotely thinking about that. And it pops in my head, you've got to put that post on the author's page. And I'm like, what? Oh, okay. You know, I've learned I got to follow that.
Yes.
I got to follow it. And so I'm like, okay. So I post it, and 2 hours later,
I comment,
oh my God, I was looking for that.
Oh, that's
so
great.
we have this connection because we've both been authors in the same series.
Yes.
Intuitive. And so you were in
Speaking
Her Truth.
Speaking Her Truth.
Speaking Her Truth. Yeah.
I was
with Bridget.
Seeing Her Truth. The most so the physical book hasn't come out yet. So we have that connection, which is really beautiful. So of course the universe.
How nice is that? Yeah.
And only 2 days earlier, we'd had a listener send emails a request, and we love that because we always ask what are people interested in, what would you like to learn, and she'd mentioned that Akashic Records is really interesting to her, and I said, okay, universe, find us the perfect person to talk to about this, and bang, you did that.
And you know what? My guides got that and said hello, and starts nicking me in the head.
Put it on the author's page so I will see it.
I didn't know. I had no clue. So to answer your question, it's like, you know, to manifest, you can have what you want. You just have to be open to what it looks like, because it may not look anything like you think it has to. And you could actually completely inhibit your manifesting by being so focused on what you think it needs to be.
So you could be a lot more than what you actually want.
Oh yeah,
because you don't know necessarily what you want. Really, you know what you want at the time, but that's going to change. I think
you have to know what you want, but I think you have to be open to pivot That's like my word of the year is
I like that. Be open to
knowing
pivot.
when
That's got to be a t-shirt. I like that.
Like a
knowing
Be
when to
open
pivot.
to pivot. Yeah.
netball t-shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
I always
know,
have on the end, may this or something better come along when I'm manifesting,
yeah,
to open up
yeah.
the possibilities that I hadn't even thought of.
Totally. And we can totally miss the mark if we think it needs to be something else and we'll dismiss it. And so that's the thing about intuition in your guides, you know, because people ask me all the time, well, how do I know? You know, how do I know if it's intuition? It's just not my ego talking.
Yeah.
Well, in my experience, intuition is clear, it is fast, it is in, it is out, and it is very non-emotional. And it's just like crystal clear. It's like, okay. And then if you think about it, which most adults do, and we talk ourselves out of it, or we say, nah, that can't be that. And we miss it. And that's you gotta follow those little nudges. And it's, you know, the universe is always dropping things in your space. You know, a book you should read, a person you should interview, you know, a direction that you should consider that maybe you hadn't, and that will lead you to what you say you want.
And it's
And
also your choice, isn't it, as to whether or not that's a
it
coincidence.
is.
If that's a coincidence or if that's a sign, that's kind of your choice as to what that is, isn't it? Yeah.
And in my case, they're synonymous to me.
Sure.
Because it's
Sure.
like, go for it. And it may not
perception?
always lead to where you think, but it might bridge you to somebody else. It might, you know, something might not happen, but it might happen later. Who knows? So, and you know, we're always sending intentions out to the universe, always. We're just, and that's why I say you got to be careful what you say, right? Or what you think. It's like, well, I'll never be, I'm not physically able to, I'm not going to do that. Cool. You might want to say, you know, I'm open to the possibility of doing something physical because I'd like to move, and you know, the universe, send me,
See what comes.
send me an idea.
You
know,
I'd love to shift gears if I may, and it's a bit,
yeah,
so having a lively conversation, but at the same time, this is changing the vibe a bit, and it's serious. And
yep,
this comes up a lot, and I'd love to know how you would explain this to your clients, because it gets a bit deep.
okay,
Back to kind of karma, and when we have lessons and experiences, and sometimes people, like, I have a tricky time sometimes trying to explain with empathy why people would choose their lessons that are friggin' horrible, like
yeah,
big stuff, traumas, abuse, rape, horrible things for children, all that kind of stuff. So that's what I mean by change its tune. And if we're choosing experiences for our lessons and have karma, how do you explain to your clients who would, I'm sure, would sometimes ask these kind of questions, why the hell would I choose to go through that? Or is it part of their experiences who did this thing to me? You know, life happens to you. I very much believe it's not what happens to you, it's how you handle it and how you inside, because everyone will have different reactions to how they cope. So is that the lesson? And we have to have that experience so we can choose which way we're going to go. Are we going to start speaking at events and educating people and helping because of what happened to me? Or am I going to go to alcohol and abuse and then sort of model those kind of things as I grew up because I didn't deal with it well? Like, is that why I choose those things, even though they're horrible? Or is that just...
Well,
like,
you know, you kind of said it in the beginning. It's like, well, I find it hard to give an empathetic answer. And the reason is that it has, again, we have to take the emotion out of it. When you're dealing with energy healing or Akashic records, everything is attempting to create a balance. And you attract into your space what you are vibrationally holding. So if you are holding a lot of disempowerment and I accept abuse, and it's not that you want to accept abuse. See, oftentimes what happens is, you know, these patterns start hundreds of lifetimes ago, right? And again, the world then was very brutal, lots of brutality, abuse, power over. And most of us were forced into situations that we didn't want, that we had no choice. We had no say, especially if you were female or especially if you were young. And so that was put upon you. And in the Akashic records anyway, it still constitutes a choice, even though it was forced upon you. Choice. I use the word choice because it's like you suffered that and you never were able to balance it out for whatever reason. So it was deserving to you. So you're going to come back in another lifetime, pick up where you left off, and it's going to happen again and again and again, because you're not overcoming this concept of I'm powerless and I accept abuse because I haven't put up a boundary, right? And so as horrific as some of these might seem, this is life. This is how life used to be, and we did those things, and now we're trying to unwind them, and people aren't recognizing that they're in a different time in space. We have way more freedoms than we ever had, especially as females. We have protections in place to stop those kinds of abuses. So because we don't tolerate that anymore, that's not how we choose to live. So you must empower yourself. It's kind of like we talk about, it's like you may not be responsible for the trauma that was imposed upon you, but you are responsible for healing it. And so it's taking your power back. And how do you take your power back? It could be any number of ways, but you want to heal that primal fear, that lack of self-worth, that, okay, I'm going to accept abuse. Because we tell the universe what we want by what we accept.
Yeah.
Right? That's how we keep attracting people that take advantage of us, because we accept people who take advantage of us.
Yeah.
I mean, we got to be brutally honest here. And so, you know, for example, I had a young child that I worked with. I love working with children, because you can set them on a whole new path. They don't have to experience their karma.
Yeah.
Right. So a mother came to me and with her son, he was like 9 or 10 at the time. And he was experiencing extreme OCD and phobias. And she tried everything, and she had him in all this therapies and modalities. And it's, you know, nothing was really, truly working. And she's, God, you know, can you help me? I don't even know what you do, but can you help me? And I'm like, sure. So I went into the Akashic record with the approval of the mother. Okay, so that's how it works for children. And I learned that he had first experienced a lot of childhood abuse, you know, 50, 100 lifetimes ago. And it was repeated over and over and over and over again. Now, in this particular lifetime, he was not in an abusive relationship or family anymore, but he still hadn't overcome all of the, you know, abuse and atrocities that he had served. And I think he had always maybe passed away young. So it's like, and when you're young, it's hardest. You have the least amount of say.
And time
Right?
to balance stuff and yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So as I went in and found this out and cleared that trauma, he slowly started to calm down, to have less night episodes, night terrors, actually started making friends. I mean, the OCD wasn't completely gone, but it was way better than it was because we removed it from his energy field. And, you know, with kids, they don't necessarily question that they feel better. They just go with it. You know, so we don't necessarily need to tell him, oh, well, lifetimes ago you were, you know, abuses. That in that case, I don't think they really need to know that. All they know is that they're feeling better, they're assimilating more, and they're starting to release that so they can go on a different trajectory.
That's right. So then why would an abuser choose to be that? Like, does that mean they're balancing out something, or they're agreeing to help people with that lesson? Therefore,
both.
Are they, you know, I'm forgiving, because, or saying, even just push the boundaries a little bit. Sometimes you could be very healing to say thank you to because they chose to help you with that experience, that lesson. which I would find very freeing if you can
Yeah.
understand. But then the average person would have so much hate and other
Yeah.
things to do with. So
Well,
how
that's their downfall. Yeah, they hold it.
so people will be listening to this going, what the hell are you talking about right now? So that's and if that triggers somebody listening, then maybe that's something you can look into or you might want help with. Which
I think that also might be a good explanation of the workings behind the concept of forgiveness as well. So,
yeah,
you know, we talk about forgiveness and what forgiveness means, but that's probably a higher level understanding of how you forgiving someone is more for you even than for them, if it's authentic.
Yeah.
And so, you know, really it's kind of another spiritual explanation of what forgiveness really is.
Yeah.
The core
absolutely.
of what
Forgiveness is saying, like, you're forgiving someone who never apologized. That's really freaking hard. And especially if it's such a big deal like that, but which means that you've got to this point of understanding that there's a reason there. And they could have been, like, and I've explained this to people, they could have been someone really close to you in another life. And that's why they promised to help you with this really hard thing. And they were the asshole in your life this time. And then,
absolutely. And they have to learn. They have to learn from their negativity, and they're just in a different part of their journey. And that's how, you know, it's really hard to question people's experiences because we're all in a different phase of our journey.
Right. That's right.
But if you think about it too, you know, third dimension, universal laws are different here. We live in polarity, right? And there's lots of willful negativity. So for you as a soul to come into the earth plane to experience negativity, someone has to sign up to be the negative one.
Yeah.
Say, well, you know what? Okay, I will go down and I will be your abuser because I love you so much. I'm going to be your abuser.
And then you think, but some people would think, but, you know, they did all this stuff to me, and they think when they cross over that they would be punished for it. So maybe they wouldn't be because they're just doing what they're asked. Like, that's a weird thing for people to get their head around.
It is.
Way, but the average person's going to be hating us right now. Thinking, what are you
it's
talking
very possible. It's a different way to look at it, but I'm not saying that that's always the case, right? You know, the other case could be they're in a different space in their karma, and there's no negative karma that's inflicted that isn't eventually balanced out. So if you can buy into the fact that everything is eventually balanced out, it just might take 20 more lifetimes for that soul to figure it out. We just don't live long enough in one lifetime to see justice done.
Yeah.
Okay. But eventually it is. And so that person, that soul at some point is holding that karma of inflicting violence on another person. They will, yes, it will get balanced out. And you have to, if you have the trust and the faith that that's how this universe works, hopefully that's another thing that brings some clarity to somebody.
I figure I've done horrible things before in past lives. I haven't.
We all have.
Typically gone and visited those ones. I haven't been aware.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't need to know, but otherwise I wouldn't get to where I am now. Surely.
Correct.
Had to have balanced out a whole lot of stuff to get to where I am to help.
Correct. And some souls come in specifically to help you balance out your karma. That's why sometimes, you know, stillborns happen because they're trying to maybe take on some of mom's karma. People come in with horrific diseases. Maybe one reason is, well, I'm trying to heal some karma from this soul because that's what I agreed to do in this time around. I mean, you just, when you can look objectively and not judge, which is really hard for humans, to see what they're going through and not question it, because you have no idea where they are in their karmic journey. You have no, and you don't know why they're doing it.
And it's not punishment. Often people think they're being punished for something that.
Well, that's the victim mentality. Yes, it's like, well, I've been this has been put upon me.
Past lives, I hear I must have done a lot of bad things because all this bad stuff happening to me, and they don't realize how much they're creating.
Well, that doesn't work with my new T-shirt idea, which says like, good people are just arseholes in past lives. I'm just thinking that could be another one. So if
Well,
people get it, they'll get it.
Yeah, exactly. We've
one
all,
thing,
sorry.
one thing that I found with doing the Akashic readings is that we tend to not incarnate every single lifetime with major karma to clear.
Yeah.
We kind of need a reprieve. So sometimes we'll come in and just serve as helping others learn lessons or balance their karma. It could be a very uneventful, unexciting life.
Photos, beautiful with love.
Yes.
Because they might have had a traumatic experience in their last life, and this time they're just coming to float through life and just be to help.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Cool.
Can I just ask, just on that, so accessing the Akashic records or doing an Akashic reading, what does that look like for you? Like, how do you know they're the Akashic records?
What do you see or feel or sense?
How do I answer that? It's like how do you do your energy healing? I work with a pendulum.
Okay. Yeah.
And I ask questions. I've gotten to the point where I really don't need it, but it's kind of like a little safety net. And I have an invocation that I say to access, and then I make sure I'm accessing their guides and make sure I got approval to be there, that I'm not messing where I shouldn't be. And then I'm like, show me, help me understand the karmic pattern that's causing this person to currently experience this. And I usually they'll play like a quick movie in my head, I guess is the best way to give me an idea of what took place. It's usually very fast. And then I start asking questions. I'm like, okay, so I see a young female in the middle of a home and she's cowering and there's a person standing in the corner. So is this a father? Is this a mother? Is this a family member? Yes, no, yes, no. And like, okay, and is this abusive being, so I ask a series of questions and then I'm like, okay, I got it. And then I ask, okay, and what's the major chakra that's being affected? And what's the energy of that? And then we talk about it. And so when I share that with the person, sometimes it's on auto replay. They're like, oh my God, that's like my childhood. You just explained it in like 2 seconds. Or sometimes it's started very, very differently. They don't understand the scenario, but they're like, but oh boy, do I know what you're talking about. Because I feel that way with my husband or something. So it's just playing out again in a little bit of a different scenario. So it's usually pretty quick and I don't need a lot of detail. The detail isn't important. What's important is what you agreed to. So kind of like you alluded to before, Xavier, is that it's not so much what is done to you, it's how you choose to respond. It's going to dictate your karma. Because they're going to pay for what they did. So you don't take yourself out of alignment because that happened. You want to use it to learn from. So I always say traumas and triggers are reworded, are opportunities. Right? It's an opportunity to learn. It's an opportunity to let go. It's an opportunity to release. How can I best do that? You don't necessarily need an Akashic reading to tell you that, but it'll give you an awful lot of confirmation. And then you make your way towards what you want. And then what you do with it is your choice. You kind of asked earlier, it's like, well, do I help other people or do I do this? Well, it doesn't matter. If you feel joyful, fulfilled, at peace, and not betraying yourself and what it is you want to create for yourself, you got it made. You're doing good. Lots of people want that. I think having peace and less fear is just, and everyone defines that differently. But that's a beautiful thing to strive for.
Love that.
Awesome. Cool.
Did I answer your questions or?
Yeah,
I think that's kind of it.
So that's how I see past lives when I go into them. It sounds very similar. So I'm wondering, is that how I'm accessing it when I do it? Am I just going to their Akashic records because that's where all that information
could be. So why don't you ask?
Yeah, exactly. I will.
See what you get.
Like, well, I must be. And I know some people practice meditations to go look at their own Akashic records. And I know from reading
Yes.
Laura's canon, because I'm also a big fan and I've learned a lot from her, and a lot of her books are confirmations of what I've been doing with my clients as well. Some things that happen. And so, yeah, some people see the Akashic records as like a big library when they go into meditation and books.
Yeah.
But then other people see them well, I see it, for example, as I'm in a space and there's just kind of like energy or orbs floating around. And then when I think of what I want to know, it just sort of floats to me. And I heard or read, I can't remember, I was told, I can't remember if I channeled or read it, that depends on where you're at and what your understanding is. If you need to see a physical library of books, or if you're more open to telepathy or where it just pops in your head. So you'll see it in the way that you would expect. So it makes sense to you, which is how we channel. They give us examples of things that make sense to us, so we know how to explain them. So you could learn to channel your own Akashic records, but I think if you want someone who really knows their stuff, they can book in a session with you and you can go into it all and cut out that whole any questions you have about if I'm doing it right, or get right to the point, help them on their path. It's great.
Well, and I'm in the process now of creating some group sessions so that I can work with more people and help them access their own spiritual knowledge. Kind of like you said, it's like it's not a mystery, but you have to know what you're asking and why you're asking it. If you just ask a bunch of random stuff, it's going to be, there's no point in that. You want to know something specific. How do I clear it? And give them techniques so that they can access this anytime they need, anytime they want.
That's really good. That shows your heart's in the right place, because we were supposed to empower people to help themselves, not just them rely on us all the time to fix their problems. So it's
correct
for guidance sometimes, but also to learn how to maintain, how to look after yourself, how to balance your own chakras and keep everything.
Yes, that's exactly, kind of like my guide said, people, they just aren't getting over their karma fast enough. It's like, let's go. So it's like if you, and we're spirit in a human container. And so it makes sense to learn about your spiritual nature, your energy. So when you learn about your energy and how to manage it, that's just as important as your health and your mental mindset and your emotional well-being. It's definitely a missing part to our overall education, how we can help ourselves. So I think by just giving people the gift of knowing and not questioning their intuition and making it okay, and we're all on our own journey. It's not about everybody else, it's about you. The better off we'll all be in the long run.
Wonderful.
Anything else you wanted to ask Mick before we have some parting words, maybe from Patty or?
I like the idea. I see a lot of the stuff that we see is like raising the vibrations of the people on this planet. A lot of that I think is due to just quite simply the information that's out there now. I know it can be bad. I know it's a bit concerning as to what our kids know at such a young age, or what they're exposed to, whether it's true or not. But just the fact that there's so much more information, there's so much more power that's able to go across from people. So our life is very different. But perhaps that information with the Akashic records is like more access to spiritual information, and how we can raise our vibration from that end as well. So I love how you kind of represented that. So I think that's good. It's exciting. Yeah. So thank you, Patty. I really appreciate it.
You're very, very welcome. Thank you for having me. This has been really fun.
That was very informative. I was really happy to help with some questions that I had. I just wanted to hear someone else, another shiny person's explanation why deep shit happens.
I know. Well, it's going to happen. It's the Earth plane.
That's right.
That was good. That was really helpful, and I'm sure it's helped a lot of people and given them something to think about as well, which is great. Whether you take it or leave it, that's the whole point of this podcast. So
exactly.
Yeah. Is there anything else? How can people reach you, connect with you? What do you offer?
Sure. So I kind of do. It's pattyoliver.com, PATTY Oliver.com. And I offer some limited private sessions. I'm shifting gears. Matter of fact, that's why I went away for a while. I'm like, I gotta pivot. and refigure. So I have some limited private sessions available. And then eventually I'm developing a waiting list, which is on there for the group sessions for whenever. I hope to have it out sometime this fall. So you can go on that site and book a session. Now, the thing I was thinking of is that, given that our time is so different, was it 14 hours, 17-hour time difference?
Yeah.
The times I have available on my calendar may not jive with someone in your time zone. So if someone in your neck of the world wants a reading,
we've got people in the States, in Spain, we've got listeners all around the world, so they'll just have to try and work out the time zone.
The time.
So just if there's nothing that works, send me an email. There's a contact page, and we'll figure it out.
Great, that's nice.
Beautiful, loved it.
Awesome.
Okay.
Awesome.
Wonderful.
And definitely get a copy of Intuitive Speaking Her Truth as well, to read a bit more about Patty's story, which would be lovely.
Yeah, and I'm the first chapter in the book, which was kind of fun.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. And it talks about my journey with breast cancer and how I became a healer. So
fantastic.
Very inspiring.
Wonderful. Excellent. Thanks so much.
Wonderful, guys.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. That's it for another episode. Thanks to our major supporter, Subtle Energy Sciences. Click the link in the show notes to access their full product range of quantum healing technology.
We're blown away by this technology and are so excited to share it with you.
And of course, we really want to hear from you.
Please leave your comments on our YouTube channel, or for those podcast listeners, you can email us at mickandthepsychic@gmail.com to leave your feedback or questions.
I'm a certified hypnotherapist and timeline regression therapist. If you wish to contact me to explore the source of an issue you're facing, just book a session at hernhypnosis.com and include the promo code MATP for 10% off. You can contact me on Insta and Facebook at hernhypnosis.
Check out my website at optimisticxavier.com.au if you feel you'd like to connect with me as a psychic medium, spiritual mentor, or intuitive coach. Include the promo code MATP for 10% discount. You can also find me on Insta, LinkedIn, and Facebook.
We look forward to connecting with you again next time as we attempt to leave no stone unturned.
Bye.
All right, cool. I reckon that should be okay.